What is slowly dying off or disappearing? Fireflies. They mostly rely on the bioluminescence of their fellow species in order to attract for mating. However, due to increasing urbanization, which is also increasing use of artificial lighting, street lamps, their presence are dwindling. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and thankfully, due to a combination of more people going with native landscaping and an even larger number just not giving two craps about their yards, combined with some fantastic public parks that also don't get crazy pesticide lawn treatments, we have the healthiest pollinator population in the state. This means we also have tons of beautiful lightning bugs. So I'm not sure light pollution is a big driver of the problem. I would be inclined to blame people turning their lawns into green wastelands. Grass isn't green. Bring nature back to your yard and enjoy the sights and sounds. Iodine in salt. Seriously, go to the grocery store and see how many brands of salt show this salt does not provide iodine, a necessary nutrient. Fun fact, a lack of iodine can cause cretinism in babies and children. It's not just an insult, it's an actual devastating medical condition. Iodized salt was actually responsible for a IQ increase in the US. Lack of iodine was a major problem not many decades ago. Giraffes. They've become an endangered species. They've been endangered a while, but they are critically endangered now. That's so sad. I saw wild ones in Kenya and they're super amazing. Like some kind of fantasy animal. Coral reefs. This is a huge problem and this comment needs to be higher. I went snorkeling 5 years ago and the coral was abundant with life. Went back 2 years later, 3 years ago, and it was like half dead. This was in Puerto Rico. I just had this same experience in Hawaii. Snorkeled 2-step on the Big Island in 2016. Beautiful. Went back 2017. A little bleachy here and there but nice. Went back 2019. And holy crap, it's a great yard. Now 2021 and it's only worse. Most depressing crap I've experienced, seeing the rapid decline. Roller skating rinks. Which is so sad because we have one in my town that used to be the life of the party. Every night it was going up. It's huge. It has a 3-story crazy maze too. Everyone had their day parties there. Now it's only open some obscure hours like Wednesdays from 12 PM to 2 PM. Yeah, there's a roller skating place near me. I remember going as a kid. In year 12 we went there for a pep class and the place was so dead. All the arcade machines were so old. Like some from the 80s. The place was falling apart. Almost felt abandoned. Affordable housing for young adults. People who aren't from where I live find the need to tell me I'm wrong if I don't look for a home in a larger city. I'm from the Netherlands and the last place I would look to buy/rent a home is from larger cities. I don't like the massive crowds, it makes me really uneasy and I feel the urge to escape from the location. Just got a 1-bedroom 740 square feet for $1,300 USD and that's considered cheap. I'm in Texas. A 1-bedroom used to be around $700 5 years ago. My rent was $900 3 years ago. It's going up to $1,250 this year. It ain't fair. Privacy. It's funny that there are so much laws and crap that say they value our privacy, while in reality some crap ass Facebook will still steal your data, even though that's against your privacy. They value your privacy because it's something they can sell. They meant what they said. Most people just don't realize which way it's intended. Affordable housing. Just when I started looking for my first home. Yep. Kinda hit home recently that I'll probably never buy a home for myself and my 4-year-old. I have a decent job too, but the housing market is just out of control and not slowing down. Not sure what it's like for kids growing up in apartments, but I guess we'll make it a joint adventure lol. That's my current situation. Full-time single dad with a 6-year-old living in an apartment. Family reunions. I was born in '83 and I can remember going to one every year for both sides of my pop's family and just one side of my mom's. It's definitely a dying tradition since now you can keep up with everyone online. The leading people of your parents' families are probably dead now, so reunions are missing the common attraction. Now you have to wait for someone else to die to see everyone. You are 100% correct. The old timers were the ones keeping them going, and once they passed so did the tradition. Physical media. Vinyl sales are still on the up, though. It helps that vinyl albums don't feel like you're buying a song so much as an actual product. You get the album, the cover is a fancy art piece unto itself. You typically get high quality digital recordings you can download accompanying it, and the albums themselves typically have little goodies inside. Free parking. Even the smaller suburbs in their town center started charging for parking. A town center near me had parking garages with above 30% vacancy on their busy nights. They started charging for parking, and everyone went to a different town center. Have they ran out of business or are struggling? Arcades, but more specifically, arcade games. Now in arcades it's just rigged, claw games which only drops a plush if you put enough money in. Sad to see really. However, there is a rise in arcade bars featuring old cabinets, pinball, and newer options. Look at Tilt in Toronto as an example. They opened a Tilt arcade in my city in Ontario and we were all very excited, but it immediately turned into a hotbed for people getting their drinks drugged and lots of women coming forward saying they were targeted at the arcade. So the fun and novelty wore off very quickly. Bees are dying at an alarming rate. Specifically the niche bees that don't live in hives and don't make honey. Honeybees are wiping them all out through competition. Soon the only bees we will have left will be honeybees. And honeybees are so overbreeded that they are facing the same genetical problems as dogs like pugs do. At one point we will have bees that need cooling applied to the hive because they lost the ability to cool it themselves. I feel like people who say common sense haven't been paying attention to history much. There's a reason we have a lot of safety rules and advanced medicine. I slowly learned over time that most rules are usually put in place because someone did something stupid. Mouse. E-commerce has been going crazy and covered I feel was the final nail in the coffin. I saw a shirt for $25 in the mall in a store and saw it for $13.99 on Amazon. It also took a day to have it shipped to me. Interesting. I feel like the malls around me are massive and killing it. My local mall has been getting renewed for like 2 years now. It really just depends on your area. The outdoor shopping plazas do really well in my area and the outlet malls do really well. But I went to a mall a few days ago, one of your classic JCPenney, Target, masses on each corner, Hot Topic and other stores in the center, and it was just dead. Not good at all. And really weird feeling. Traditional cable TV. There's never anything good on anywhere lol. 1000 plus channels with nothing fun to watch lol. Where I'm from that was considered satellite. When I was a kid, cable was under 100 channels and only had somewhat local channels. I'm not sure if we just called everything wrong, but I remember cable never going over 100. And one of the channels was to show you what was on the other channels by slowly scrolling through. Facebook. Only pages posting memes and videos. Almost no real person still posts what they are up to. There was a recent survey that showed a lot of young people have stopped using Facebook. Yeah, it's kinda bothersome cause I'm considered by my school as a third year, but retaking some lower classes and had asked my classmates if they have a Facebook group for assignments and crap and they all said it's for old people. Amphibians. It's a worldwide phenomenon. It's because of the chemicals turning the freaking frogs gay. For anyone who didn't know, this isn't just a joke, and Alex Jones was actually right about this. There's a company, the Syngenta Corporation, which makes a pesticide, atrazine, which happens to frig with certain frog species reproductive developments. It causes males to develop female sex organs and crap. Crazy chemicals. It had some minor effects on humans as well. I think the FDA is finally reassessing the safety of this chemical now. Sometimes, unfortunately, the tinfoil hat people are right. My hair. Same. You're not losing hair, you're growing your forehead. Mom and pop businesses. It's ironic. Ask any stupid US politician about that, and they will say I support small business / mom and pop business, yet they go ahead and frick them over by giving subsidies to big business, which then uses them to undercut local competition and then raise prices when they are gone. Here in Canada we kept doing soft lockdowns to keep COVID numbers in check, but we kept big box stores open, so Mom and pop shops got fricked, while Costco and Walmart made cash hand over fist. Christmas cards. We used to get and send a ton, and year by year it gets smaller. We kept ours taped to the front door as a kid. The door was usually wallpapered top to bottom. We got one card last year. My mum used to string some twine across our living room ceiling and hang them over that. By Christmas, there would be rows of cards crisscrossing all over, and you could barely see the ceiling. Religion. At least in the US, an increasing number of Americans every year declare themselves non-atheist or agnostic, etc., according to various Pew Research Center polls. In Spain, a very religious country historically, it is hard to find young people participating actively in religion outside of the most conservative circles. This just reminded me of a tidbit. Apparently, lots of Spanish people are registered as Catholic, even though they aren't practicing, just because they were baptized, and there's no reason to get it officially changed. But for those that move to Germany, that registration gets carried over, and they automatically have 10% of their income tithed to the Catholic Church until they pay to cancel it. Small restaurants and cafes. One of my favorite cafes was a victim of the pandemic. It was literally a one-woman operation with cozy seating, which of course wasn't utilized during the pandemic, and had dozens of lat flavors that you could combine to make a bunch of different drinks. I still miss it. There will be plenty more that pop up. I'm sad to hear that you lost your favorite cafe. Another good one will come soon, unless your town is awful and do not like good places to eat and drink good coffee. WW2 veterans. There's estimated to be around 300,000 in the US. Considering that when I was a kid there were still a few WW1 veterans shuffling around and I've seen them go extinct, I'll likely live to see the WW2 guys die out also. Sobering thought really. When my great-grandfather passed in 2014 at 94, we were holding his funeral on a Monday in January. My grandpa, great-grandpa's son-in-law, who fought in Vietnam, is in a military support biker club, Patriot Guard Riders, tried to get a few people to give my great-grandpa one last salute, but due to the timing we didn't expect many people to show up. Amazingly, dozens of veterans and servicemen showed up to give him a final salute because he was a WW2 veteran who fought in Germany. He had a whole 21 gun salute and everything. As sad as his passing was, seeing him be honored that way was beautiful, and I'll always be happy that his service and passing was not in vain. It's sad to know so few remain. I just hope they all get the same final salute as my great-grandfather. They deserve it. As a Jew, I've gone to as many WW2 vet funerals as I could and knew of in my area. It's not much, but I want to take even that small gesture and time as a point to honor them and any role they had in ending the torture and extermination of my family along with many other atrocities. Glaciers and ice caps. I'm from BC, Canada, and I really have noticed the massive mountains don't nearly have as much snow on them as when I was a kid. Same on the Italian Alps. Cars with manual transmissions. That's the norm here in the UK. Automatics are rare. Other than a few economy and sports cars, they are not very common in the US market anymore. Everyone, enjoy your finite existence. Drive-in theaters. I loved these as a kid. There's still a few left, and a couple popped up during COVID here and there, but you have to hunt them down more and be willing to drive out a ways sometimes. There's nothing like loading snacks, throwing some extra cushions and pillows in your vehicle, pulling up, and taking in 2-3 movies on the big screen under the stars. Also a good adventure for dates. There's one near me. It's great. It makes bad movies good. The ability to have actual constructive arguments. Excuse me, I'm offended by this. Well, in that case, I'm going to ignore any and all reasonable points you make and argue with a strawman, you liberal snowflake, omega sigma male cuck liberal communist fascist snowflake. Cartoons like the ones in 90s, when the creators had fun creating, rather than worry about the target demographic. Lot of them were aimed at children, but adults enjoyed them and still do. Days of experimenting like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon used to do. Cartoons that weren't profitable in the 90s were still cancelled. People just don't remember the crap ones. Man, I wish that Pirates of the Dark Water got finished. Patience. I blame the American work culture. A guy who sits in traffic for 1.5 hours, to work for 8 hours in a cramped office, to sit in traffic for 1.5 hours on the way home, every single weekday, he gets a precious small amount of time to himself. Precious little amount of time with his loved ones. When life's like that, wasting whatever time he has is an insult. And that's a 40-hour work week. With how shoddily wages have kept up with inflation, many people have to work more than 40 hours. What if you work 2 jobs? How much time do you get to yourself? And then we have people who say, oh, just be patient, you can afford to wait. Bish, how do you know what I can afford? What do you know about my life? Patience is a luxury. It is a luxury to be generous with your time. It's easy to say just be patient and expect someone to not be bothered, when in fact it's very reasonable to be bothered that the little time they have to themselves is being squandered. It's like calling a poor man stingy for not giving up his last dollar. Some of us need our time. Some of us don't get as much of it. Respect that. I see your downvotes, and I challenge you to disagree with a coherent argument. Journalistic integrity. Manners. So many people sneeze and cough without covering their mouths and will flip crap if you remind them to. People who openly antagonize service workers. People acting ridiculous in public places. It's like self-awareness has become rare. Any sense of humility. On God, I feel it's very rare anyone stops to think, is my self-importance maybe a bit too high? Dating in person or the traditions that come with relationships like marriage or kids. I know a lot of people who don't want kids besides me. I like how it's more acceptable too, because I really can't see myself having children. I, 24 meters, got a vasectomy in July. You wouldn't believe the crap I got for it from my parents. Telephone booths are completely gone by now. I haven't seen any in years. Phone booths are still fairly common in Australia. Calls on them are free, and they're Wi-Fi hotspots. Yep. They made them free so that anyone who is in a dangerous situation or DV, abusive relationships, family issues etc. can call for help at any time. I mean 000 is free, but some services aren't. I remember seeing bumblebees everywhere when I was in elementary school, early 2000s. I grew up in the Midwest suburbia, and I have fond memories of grabbing my butterfly net after school and pretending like I was the butterfly equivalent of Steve Irwin. Yes, indeed, I fancied myself quite the garden naturalist and explorer. Neighbors would see me and my butterfly squad prancing through the neighborhood, bold little adventurers decked out in makeshift safari gear, crouching, rolling, and patrolling through the backyards trying to scout out the very best butterfly garden hotspots. When we found a good garden, we would document it in our butterfly safari map. Then we'd revisit the butterfly oasis as the season progressed to see how different flowers blooms impacted the bug turnout. We would catch all variety of bugs, put them in our bug zoo, and charge parents to see a haul. Of course I would always release them, even if some of our zookeeper fancied themselves as quite the taxidermists. We'd always be disappointed, 70% of the time I roll, but it felt like always when we'd show up to our butterfly hotspots and see nothing but buzzing, droning, mindless bumblebees. They would come in such numbers. I thought they were pushing all the butterflies away. It was such a letdown when I wanted those beautiful butterflies. I'm sad to say I would have welcomed their extinction at this point in my life. Not anymore. Today, I understand their importance. Sadly, I cannot remember the last time I heard the buzz of a bumblebee float by, and I will be sure to take a mental snapshot next time I see one. For all I know, it could be the last bumbler I ever see. Plant allium flowers, bumblebees love that stuff. I have them in my garden and it's not uncommon to see 20+ bumblebees on a single plant. Ability to write in cursive. Having a unique and artful signature used to be as much of someone's character as their style of dress and mannerisms. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I can immediately tell the age of someone based on their cursive. I can a bit for regular handwriting as well, but cursive is just telling. Older people have almost that calligraphy style of cursive that you would see hundreds of years ago, whereas younger people have a much loopier style of cursive. I work in a pharmacy, so I decipher handwriting all day and sometimes I get some handwritten prescriptions or forms and I'm like, you're definitely over 50. I can write in cursive, but it doesn't look the same at all as the older style. I work in a healthcare clinic and, in order to treat a minor we need a parent/guardian to sign a consent to treat. Happened yesterday and I was going over the paperwork and did a double take because the teenager had an old school cursive signature that was just beautiful and the parent had a squiggle signature. It genuinely made me smile to think this very young individual might have a decent career in calligraphy. Pangolins. This makes me sad. They're adorable. The existence of any semblance of community in real life. I've tried to foster that sense in my own neighborhood. We do decently, but I think what I've noticed that kills a sense of community is 1. People not willing to actually leave their house, and 2. People moving too often. In the 5 years I've been in my neighborhood, it's almost all completely new people. There are 2 families on my street that are still here from the beginning. Most people seem to move within 3 years. Compare that to when I was growing up in the 90s and 2000s. Everyone in my parents' neighborhood had been there for decades and everyone knew everyone. It's hard to keep up and build relationships when people just up and leave. My neighborhood growing up was semi-rural though, whereas now I'm in an Atlanta suburb. Don't know if that's making a difference, but it definitely seems like as soon as you become closer friends with the neighbors they leave. There are people in my parents' neighborhood that have lived there since the houses were built in the late 60s. I really miss it, so I try to help it happen. I think it's super important to know and be friendly with your neighbor so when the time comes you all have each other's backs. I grew up in hurricane areas. I can only hope this changes. People who put their shopping carts back in the cart corral. But luckily for everyone, the cart narcs are on patrol. The name Gary and Karen. Updated to add the name Karen. If I ever get a cat I'll name it Gary. Also Bob is dying. Excuse you. I'm not dying, nor do I plan to. The amount of people actually getting married and having children is decreasing amongst millennials and the generations going forward. But the people who are getting married are divorcing a lot less because we are not jumping into marriage just because it's expected of us. Culture and traditions. Belong to a tribe myself. I guess within 10 years the cultural values and traditions will be nowhere to be found. That's sad that your culture might disappear, but culture itself can never ever, so long as we are humans. Every single person has culture. It may be personally sad, but it's the natural progression of things. Cultures from thousands of years ago are nowhere to be found today. Cultures from today will be nowhere to be found thousands of years from now. That's not to say that they weren't important, or haven't developed, or built on each other though. CD players and radios. God, remember having a CD player in the car, and every time you hit a bump in the road it'd skip? Those were the days. Baby boomers. Thank Allah. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything. These days it's more like, if you have nothing nice to say it on social media. Or no offense but sending mail or receiving it. Writing checks. Cashiers at grocery stores, automated self-checkout in most stores now. Stay-at-home mothers/wives and or fathers/husbands. Non-working parents/custodians/grandparents/guardians of young children. It's too expensive for quality care of young children in the US. If you are middle income you often still need 2 partners to make ends meet. Single parents often have 2 or more jobs just to survive. Government assistance is available, but the bridges out of poverty are limited. To put a more positive spin on things, I feel homophobia and transphobia has become far less prevalent than when I was a kid. Sometimes I still get some comments, however there's much less stigma around it than even 5 years ago. Especially transphobia. That crap seems to be dying out quick. Most of my trans friends can be open about it now with very few worries. I would say transphobia is still a lot more prevalent than homophobia, although you're absolutely right that both are phasing out of society. Most people that have those opinions are from older generations, so it should be phasing out at an exponential rate, which is great. Would love a world where everyone can be themselves and happy with the partner of their choosing without other people trying to interfere. Good mental health. To be fair, I think it's just that we are more open about poor mental health. Until recently, it wasn't super viable to be open about mental issues. Newspapers. Although I still people delivering newspaper in the morning and seems weird. Free time. I'd say smoking, but vaping is taking over. I'm not convinced they won't find that to be very harmful in the near future too. People think it's consequence free, so they do it more. When my dad graduated high school in 1978, 1 in 3 seniors smoked. When I graduated in 2004, it was 1 in 7. This year, it's 1 in 25. About 90% of life on Earth. The appreciation of classic rock. It's only been played over and over again on the radio for the past 50 years. Actual romantic partners for life. It's really sad. Consider that partners for life historically have often been so due to no divorce. That is no options to leave a toxic relationship. I respect the heck out of couples who stay together because it works and they truly love each other, though. Actual journalism.